What is going on, guys? This is All Gaming with my review of Kill la Kill episode 24, and here we are. We have finally reached the end, and I gotta say, for a series finale, to me it was actually pretty good. I enjoyed the episode so freaking much that I had to go back and watch it twice because it was definitely that good to me. But the episode, we see now that it starts all with my boy Sanagayama. He actually formed this like 100-man assault where we saw him standing on, the stack of students, and so he actually goes to attack this beacon, but we see that he actually can't reach it because it's surrounded by these life fibers that are acting like a barrier to protect it. And so, of course, because he can't, penetrate the barrier, it actually reflects him off. And so now we see that he was actually being skulled by the Elite Four. But then we get to the serious stuff, and we see Sasuke versus Ragyo, and we have Ryuko here fighting against Nue. And so, but with Sasuke, she actually used her two swords, but her mother, Ragyo here, actually let them penetrate her hands so that she could break the blades. And so now, once again, Sasuke is kind of like weaponless here, because this right here was kind of like what she had to use to cut through these life fibers, and now they're gone. But we have Nue, who now has these new arms, and apparently she can still fight on Ryuko's level. So they were kind of like on equal footing, but then we have Ragyo finally showing the power of this absolute domination. And so what it does, it makes all other life fibers tremble in fear, and it renders them powerless. So of course, everybody in their Ultima, uniforms, they got turned back to normal. And Ryuko and Sasuke, they also lost their powers, so they're turned back to normal. So now nobody can really do anything. But we see now that nobody's really giving up, because we have Ira carrying the Elite Four and Mako as well. And so now we see that even though they're under the effects of the absolute domination, Ira here, he's strong enough where he can actually resist and still move, which kind of surprised them. But then we have Mako, who actually had their little scene. And of course, Nue here, she got, rather pissed off at that. But when she went to attack Mako, Ira actually got in the way of it and took the hit for her. And so now, of course, you would think that this could be out of love. But I'm pretty sure he used an excuse about protecting, all the students. And of course, Sasuke had to cover up. And so now we see Nue, who definitely didn't like that. She got pissed off and actually went for a finishing blow against Ira. But now we have Ryuko, who actually took off Senketsu and, blocked off Nue. And so now we see, Ryuko here, she can still fight because she had life fibers in her body, and they are under the control of the absolute domination. So that right there is awesome. But now while Ryuko's fighting Nue, we have Mako here crying over, Ira, because he asked her if he was okay, and it seemed like he died. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually would have believed that, Ira could have been killed off, because, in the series finales, you wouldn't go for that, shock value. And so his death, it would have been shocking. And so now we see everybody is kind of upset here, and even Mako was like crying as well. But then we see that Ira, not Ira, we have Tsumagu and Aikiro. They actually wanted to get involved, and we see now that they actually combined their DTRs, but they got taken out so quickly. It's kind of a shame to see how far New Beach has fallen, because now they're like fodder characters. They had like no importance to the story, as Ragyo here took them out instantly like that. But now we see that the original life fiber, it actually wasn't killed. We see now that it actually transformed into a sea of life fibers, and it actually made its way into the school where it covered the beacon. And so now we see that something definitely happened inside of it. But we see that all these life fiber threads, they are now coming out of it, and they're wrapping around the students, and they're pulling them in. And even Ryuko, who's powerless right now because she cannot wear Senketsu. Oh, I also forgot to mention that, we actually saw Ryuko going in there and attacking Ragyo, and Senketsu was like warning her to be careful. And for the first time, Sasuke was actually able to hear him. And so this right here actually made him realize something that plays, such a great importance in this episode. But now we see that, once they're all being absorbed by the life fiber, and Ryuko here is kind of powerless in front of her mother, because we see Ragyo was like holding her up suspended off the ground, we see now that the Senketsu, he actually able to use, you know, one of his forms, and he was actually able to penetrate Ragyo, and we see now that, you know, that right there caught her off guard, and not only that, you know, he made this hole through her, and that right there, you know, by her being weakened in that one moment, everybody got their power back. So inside of the life fibers right now, they were all able, you know, to use the power once again to break free. And then we have Mako here, who also was like going on the offensive. She had freed Tsumagu and Aikiro, and I'm not gonna lie, that moment right there, it was definitely so freaking epic. Mako definitely showed off, and we saw like a different side of her, because I do believe that, you know, she was like genuinely pissed off when she did that. But now, of course, with them able to use the powers once again, we see now that, you know, Ryuko here, she puts on Senketsu, and they're all fighting. And so, of course, we have, you know, we have the Elite Four. They're going to destroy the beacon, while we have Sasuke and Ryuko. They're, of course, going to confront their mother. And it was so epic when both of them had a Scissor Blade, because that right there, it's a moment that I waited for so long to see. Because I had a feeling that, you know, it would happen, and I'm so glad that it finally did. Because we see now with each of them wielding one, they were able to inflict some serious damage to Ragyo, because we all know that when you're cut from both sides with them, the life fibers, you know, that are severed, they could never be repaired. So clearly, Ragyo here took some serious damage. But when the Elite Four went to go take out the other beacon, we see now that Nue was definitely not gonna let that happen. And of course, she made the clones of herself. But not only that, when they were distracted by all those clones, we have Ira here, who's still alive, and that right there, you know, definitely made me happy. And we see now that he was actually able to penetrate the barrier by himself, thanks to his regalia. And we see that once he was able, you know, to make it crack some, he had this new mode, called Ego Burst, and that right there was cool, because he was actually able to fire like these face lasers, I guess you can call them, and that right there was able to make an opening for Aikiro and Tsumagu, who had sacrificed their DTRs to destroy it. And so, of course, now we see that, you know, Ragyo here, who is definitely, you know, being cut to pieces, because she literally was. It seemed like she had lost. But then she gave out this order that I never thought would happen. She had told Nue to sacrifice her own body, and we see that she does that as she actually decapitates herself. But when she does that, her head is still around, and we see that the original life fiber, it actually absorbs her head. And so Nue here, she kind of, you know, like fused with it, and we see now that she's in control, because we see that the life fiber, it takes like this monstrous form of her face. And then we see that the original life fiber actually fused with Ragyo, and now she's healed. And we see that she has actually become one with the beacon, and now she launches herself off into space so that she can give the order to the satellite, so that all of the people who are wearing covers, because we actually learned in the episode that everybody in the world is now wearing the clothes that have the life fibers that are inside of them. But of course, you know, right now they're asleep. But when she goes to the satellite, she can awaken them, and that will, you know, like make them all activate, and everybody, you know, wearing them will be consumed by their clothes. And so now that she reached it, we actually see that, you know, it was starting. And so, of course, you know, somebody had to stop her. And Ryuko here was the one that said she would go. But right before she left, we had Mako, who appeared out of nowhere. And she actually asked Ryuko out on a date. But it was like once she came back, they'll go on a date and do like a bunch of stuff. And we see now that Sasuke here, right when she go say something serious, we have Mako bunning in once again with like comedy routine. But then we see something amazing here, where Ryuko, she actually absorbs every, you know, uniform that's around her. So of course, when she does that, everybody gonna be naked. But we see now that she obtains, you know, her ultimate form, which is called Senketsu Fashion Week. And even though it did not look that different, I will say that, you know, it did look kind of cool with like those added features. I did enjoy that. But I do believe that they could came up with like a better name than like Fashion Week. But regardless, we see now that once she absorbs them all, she makes her own rocket out of her clothing. and of course, she flies up into space to confront her mother for, their final battle. So once she actually gets there, she actually punches Sasuke. My bad. She actually punches Ragyo off the satellite, and we see now this right here is the beginning of the end. And even though we see that Ryuko here is definitely going to win, it was not that easy for her, because right when she had started, to fight Ragyo, she could not even cut her with her scissor sword, because, like she said, they are, just hardened life fibers. So of course they'll be kind of useless in front of her absolute domination. So now you gotta wonder, how can she possibly win when she can't use her weapon? And so we see that, even though she was kind of rushing in like a fool, she did have a plan. Because we see now that she was actually letting herself get beat up like this over and over. And I did kind of worry, like what was going on here, because I felt like she was going in there too headstrong. But it seems that, all this time she had something planned. So even when it seemed like she was being a fool, just going in there, at least we knew that, she was not being a fool about it. And so we see Ragyo here, who's being, very arrogant. She starts rambling on while she's like attacking her daughter. And we see now that some of her attacks, they actually, weren't too fatal. Like, because we all know that Ryuko can definitely heal, but it seems that Ragyo here was like holding back, even though, she didn't mean to. So she was saying that, a part of her still has the faintest trace of a human heart. And we see that, she kind of transformed a little bit, not much of a difference, but we see, some change in her. And so now she's like stabbing Ryuko repeatedly. And, even I thought that, that right there could be the end. But Ryuko was like still holding on. And we see now that Senketsu, he was sent, they're like running out of time. So she actually planned on ending this. But right when she charged in, we just have Ragyo, impaling her. And so, of course, now you gotta wonder, what the heck is Ryuko gonna do? But we actually learned that Senketsu, he was actually, planning on using the power that he'd been perfecting, throughout the series. So basically, like we all know, whenever Ryuko and Senketsu had defeated somebody, like a third of theirs were absorbed into Senketsu. And so now he was actually absorbing, this like ultimate Kamui, and that right there was like pretty freaking cool, I gotta say. And so now we see that because he absorbed the ultimate Kamui, he actually got the power, over the absolute domination. So of course now with that power, they were easily able to defeat Ragyo, and not only that, Ryuko here was also able, to control the satellite and told the life fibers, to basically revert humanity back to how they were. And it was definitely cool, like the bond that Ryuko and Senketsu have, because they were saying that they aren't humans or they aren't clothing, but at the same time they are, and they're everything else. Like for some reason, like these two characters, they are quite complex, but I do like it. But we see now that after it was all over, we have Senketsu. He had turned back to normal. And of course, Ragyo, who no longer had the ultimate Kamui, she was actually, left naked. But of course, now it's all over because she like definitely lost. And rather than, turn her life around and going back with her daughter, we see now that Ragyo here actually chose to end her own life as she impaled her chest and pulled her own heart out. And that right there was definitely extreme, because now we see that Ragyo here is definitely going to die. That's obvious. But she was saying that, even though they had beat her, the battle here is still not over, because there are, life fibers still out there. And so now she had destroyed her heart, and, Ragyo was dead because her body, just evaporated. But we have Senketsu, who we see, have these like life purpose coming out of him, and he was saying to Ryuko that they need to head back. And so now he was like he was in control of her, and we see that they're falling to earth. But Senketsu, who no longer on Ryuko, he's now burning up. Like we saw him on fire, and so now of course that was just definitely not a good sign. And even Ryuko here, she definitely knew what was going on, because we see Senketsu, he's now dying because absorbing the ultimate Kamui, that right there was like too much for him, and he can't take that much power. And so now he was like saying goodbye to Ryuko, because he was saying that, you know, he was glad to meet her. And so that right there, you know, their final moments, that right there definitely hit me in the feels. I definitely gotta say that right there, you know, it definitely made me sad. But we see now that he was telling her that she is now free to wear any clothes that she wants, and she could wear stuff that is much cuter than he is. And she was saying that she will, and it'll make him green with envy. And so now we see that, you know, he burns away, and it is sad to see him go, because Senketsu was like such a important character. I'm definitely sad to see that he's gone and no longer with Ryuko. But of course, you know, she's crying and she's like devastated. But while she's falling, we see now, or we hear Sasuke. She's like calling out to her, and right when Ryuko falls, she like catches her. But of course, you know, the force from that fall is so great that it's like forcing Sasuke back. And not only that, even when the Elite Four step in, they're also getting forced back. So it takes everybody, you know, to stop them. And once they do, we just see, you know, Sasuke and Ryuko. They have like this touching moment where Sasuke, she's like welcoming her back, and Ryuko actually called her sister for the first time. And that right there, I'm so glad to see that finally happened. But now at the end, we see now that Ryuko, she's of course wearing different clothes, like normal clothes, and we see that she has gone on that date with Mako. And not only that, they actually met up with Sasuke, who looks so much different, and we see that she actually cut her hair. But they actually went on a date, and of course they did all the things they're like planning on. And so now we see, while they were out, we have the Elite Four spying on them, which was hilarious. And I saw Ira like wearing a suit, which like definitely, you know, surprised me. And he also had like the flower, which I'm definitely assuming that right there was for Mako. But while they were like walking along, we see that, you know, some kid was like wearing a sailor uniform, which would definitely caught Ryuko eye. I mean, I think about Senketsu. But overall, you know, Kill la Kill, it definitely was an amazing series. I am glad that I reviewed this for you guys, because I loved it. Like I always said, this series right here was like never want to disappoint me, and the finale was definitely no different. I actually loved it a lot. And I just gotta say, Kill la Kill, I understand that, you know, Ryuko is the main character, but Sasuke, she is definitely my favorite character. Like, to me, I feel like she's the character that has grown the most, and definitely, you know, developed the most as well. Because to me, her character is just so freaking badass. But of course, you know, after Sasuke, or if not tied with Sasuke, it's Sanagayama. Like, him and Sasuke are definitely my two top characters in this entire series. But as always, please let me know what you guys thought, because I really want to get some feedback on the series overall. Like, do you all enjoy it? Did you all enjoy the finale, or do you think that it could have been better? So please let me know. But as always, do not forget to like the video and subscribe, because you guys have no idea how much to help me out. But as always, you guys take it easy, and I will see you all next time.